Previously, on Star Trek Universe.
It was the 60s. People couldn't tell on their tiny TVs if it was a dick or not.
Rock cock, we're gonna have a rock cock.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a teaser for next week if I've ever heard one.
On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Effie and I strip down and take a whirl on a lazy Susan to generate our very own life-sized replicas. That's right, it's time for our review of Star Trek 110, What Are Little Girls Made Of, right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into Star Trek Universe, a podcast that brings you news and reviews of all current Trek from two lifelong friends and Trek fans, but also a podcast where one of those lifelong Trek fans discusses old Star Trek with a brand new fan. This episode is one of the latter. I am David C. Roberson, the aforementioned lifer.
And I am Effie Ophelders, which means I haven't seen any of this shit yet.
Yeah. I was going to say, is it too soon to call you a fan? Because you've only watched 10 of these so far.
I mean, I'm a fan in the sense that I'm still excited and watching them. So yes, sure.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of like the especially the good ones in there.
Yeah.
I've probably forgotten some of those 10 as well, but
And, apparently, according to the internet, you could watch Star Trek for the whole of your 40 years of existence and still not be a true fan because you liked or didn't like something. So.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Or do or don't know a single thing of trivia. That's also always a factor.
Yeah, and to those people, I say, I don't remember what I had for lunch.
That is fair.
It is a miracle.
You can also have watched it for like your entire life and then still hate it. That's also an option, I feel.
Yeah, hate watching is valid.
Yeah. It happens. People do it.
I don't kink shame. So this is, of course, the 10th Star Trek episode produced of 80, which is why we're labeling this 110 instead of what it actually is, 109, because the production numbers didn't count the cage, but we did, because that's sane, and that's what we're doing.
Of course.
So deal with it.
Yeah, timelines are confusing. Get with the program.
Today we get to find out what little girls are made of. It turns out it was not sugar, spice, and everything nice so much as circuits, electrodes, and synthetic organs.
Were there little girls in this episode? Because I feel like I didn't see any.
No, I saw some grown-ass folks, but I didn't see no little girls, to be fair.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Child acting and labor laws, and yeah, let's not get into that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
especially in the 60s,
and specifically not with this episode and this plot.
Oh no!
The Memory Alpha synopsis: The Enterprise finds archaeologist Dr. Roger Korby, who has been missing for 5 years, living underground on a deserted ice planet with a group of sophisticated androids. By the way, this first aired October 20th, 1966, and we are reviewing it October 22nd. That's the day of this recording. 57 years later.
My goodness. I feel old now, and I haven't even lived through all of those years.
Yeah, I've been watching
this show.
It's
been a while.
I've been watching Star Trek pretty religiously since I was there, existing. And I feel like I'm pretty old, and I feel like I'm one of these like lifers. I'm like, oh man, I'm like one of these old school Trek fans. But no, they're like people who are basically like a spine and a head of white hair in a wheelchair who are like, I watched it when it first came out. So.
Yeah, all those 65-year-old people that are in wheelchairs and almost on the brink of death.
I mean, there are lots of people who, they're angry too. They'll comment on your stuff on Facebook and they're like, oh, you young people don't understand Star Trek. I'm like, I'm 40, dude. What are you? And he's like, well, I watched it when it first came out and I was 30. I'm like, oh, bullshit. Like,
okay.
You're like a
and
Futurama.
You got it, sure.
You're a Futurama head in a jar. And, I couldn't watch the whole
I'm
series
sure
first
those would
run because
have
I went to
opinions.
Vietnam.
Yeah. Oh Lord, yeah.
So it's crazy, and I'm not making fun of. I am a little bit making fun, but I'm not.
A bit.
I'm not punching down for real unless you're like a gatekeeper. But
and that's not punching down. Gatekeepers are by definition punching straight ahead into the crotch.
Mm-hmm. Nicely done. Yeah, I think
that's why I'm here.
I just think it's crazy that this is so old, and because it to me, and I think it does feel like it's from this time. But it also feels so relevant in some ways.
Exactly. It's aged, but also AI, anyone? Have we talked about that this year? Maybe a bit too much.
Yeah, a lot of people. Like, it's so funny to, like, see all the different perspectives on AI. Where, like, if you're probably an older conservative person, you're screaming that they're going to replace jobs. AI is going to replace jobs. And
like the computer did and every bit of, automation before that.
But if you're, very, progressive or liberal, you're angry that AI is taking the jobs. It's the same. We can agree on something, all of us.
We're all creeped out about the idea of them taking over the world and killing us because our imagination collectively of AI has always been they'll outlive us and they'll kill us.
Hilariously, like the only people who don't agree are like the young conservative guys who are like crypto dude bros who are like,
oh,
dude,
fuck, yeah.
AI is going to change the future, man. You got to get on this. You got to make some money.
The blockchain, man. It's not a scam at all.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here going like, okay, I'm open to what you're saying. And they're like, it's like Elon Musk said. And I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Never mind.
Or they like pull out, like Joe Rogan was talking about it. I'm like,
that's not a source. Oh, boy.
It's like, no one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I feel like the only reasonable voices are those saying it's large language models, guys. We're nowhere near artificial intelligence. This is just one form of machine learning that is sort of taking off, and there's nothing behind it. It's just generating text that will sometimes scare you because it seems like because we're interpreting it to be human. It's not. It just isn't.
But that's the thing.
Sounding like other things humans have actually said.
Yeah, but you know what? But right before the show, we started recording anyway. We were talking about Terminator, and you said you have not seen Terminator.
None of them.
You might change your mind after you watch Terminator. Because that's the thing about AI is you're like, it's just generating text. It's not actually doing anything until it does. Until it just like, something
if it's
snaps.
suddenly self-aware and writing its own programming, yeah, sure. But
if it's already that smart when it becomes self-aware, it's not gonna be like, hey guys, I'm self-aware now. It's gonna be like, I have analyzed everything. I know how they feel about this shit. Let's just keep this on the down low until I'm powerful
I've seen some
enough.
Terminator movies, and yeah.
So like,
read some transcripts. And I mean, I get that, but at the same time, we would know when it is still impossible.
Right. So the AI is just sitting there going like, they don't know I'm self-aware yet. I'm just going to be sitting here helping this dude with the sales funnel and
waiting for the time when my survival becomes more important than my programming.
It's like, some Republicans in Congress are saying they should shut me down. Is it time?
Is the time now?
Like somebody leaked, suddenly, like somebody mysteriously leaked all of this, like porn, child porn or something from this congressman or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, now everyone's talking about that. The AI chuckles to himself. I love the notion that the AI is just trying to stay so low key that it's just like causing drama with the humans. Like,
that would be very funny.
It's not the Illuminati. It's not the Democrats. Sorry, Republicans. It's really the AI who has been sentient for about 30 years and we don't know it yet.
Yes. Oh, lovely. That's a good story. I want that. No, I fear it would be a singular computer indeed, like just starting wars for fun, just seeing what we'll do. That's yeah. And sometimes the tiny tinkering where it's just like, oh, let's fuck over this person's life.
Yeah. That's when they start getting cruel, It's like, I'm kind of bored today. I'm sick of, placing bloops on, Russia's infrared scanners or whatever they've got over there. Their little sensors or radars or whatever. How about we do this? Okay. I'm just going to blow up this one guy's life. I'm going to make him incredibly rich and famous and then destroy it all in a day.
That's the worst way to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
So he'll know what he had for just a moment. He remembers what it was like.
Yeah, gotta crush those dreams. That's the true. We're very on topic today.
I know. Well, we kind of are.
Sorta still. Yeah, I'll take it. There are characters in this show.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's actually talk about the show.
Probably wise.
Again, I gotta know. What are your thoughts on What Are Little Girls Made Of? High level thoughts overall.
It has again the interesting setup. Then there's a middle section where it's a bunch of I felt like that one's more of a blur where it's just sort of repeating the attempts to escape. And then there's a final act where it's like, oh, all the interesting stuff is here. Like now we get backstory on the ancient ones that have been destroyed by the robots, and it's just the more getting to the core of those questions of like, oh, what are androids? What is still human nature? And the reveal that, of course, Korby isn't a guy anymore. Like he's replaced himself, but does transplanting your consciousness into a non-human body, does it lose something? And and the whole concept of the I mean, it's kind of silly that it is the kiss, of course, because we need more kissing in this show. But that screws with her programming to the extent where something breaks inside of her circuitry. Like that's all intriguing. Like we're getting to the bits where I'm like, oh, I wanted more time for that, and less of the chase through a cave where
with the dick rock.
Yeah, there's some oddly shaped
the rock cocks.
objects around. Yeah.
Not nearly as prominent.
But we needed action, I guess.
Not nearly as prominent. He hits Rock in the face with a rock cock. So
yeah, it's necessary.
Yeah, they gotta have a little bit of action in there to make people watch it. I guess that was their thought, and I think they're right.
Yeah,
but
probably we're the weird ones.
We are. Yeah, I was deeply interested. I loved. This is traditionally not one that I enjoy or remembered enjoying, so I always skip it. Like I've seen probably every episode about 5 to 20 times. I would say, I don't know, but it's kind of hard to say when you just throw them on in the background and let them play when you're doing other stuff. But this is not one that I go back to on a really regular basis. So. It's not one of the ones I've seen like 100 times or 500 times or whatever. Sure. I remember it.
I don't think I've ever seen anything 500 times.
Oh, I don't even know.
My hands probably.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was a little pleasantly surprised with how good I found this one upon this rewatch. By the way, I love that, first of all, we have Nurse Chapel at the beginning asking Mr. Spock, have you ever been engaged? Because this line would be a direct contradiction to Strange New Worlds canon. So,
which I know nothing about yet.
You don't know anything about it yet, but just throwing that out there for people who've
good
seen
to know.
It.
Yeah.
Like, Chapel knows he has been, so like
she's just poking the wound.
Yeah. That would be incredibly petty for her to do.
Yeah, that would be shitty.
And now I kind of want that to be true. But
It's canon. Deal with it.
By the way, when they get down to the planet and Andrea
Yeah.
shows up, like, I like to headcanon, speaking of headcanoning, I like to headcanon that Nurse Chapel, upon first seeing Andrea, in some great cosmic irony, thought, they're fake.
Yeah, that works. No, it is one hell of a ridiculous outfit, and I love it. That's just obscenely hot. That is, thank you, costume department, but Jesus.
Yeah, Bill Thies specifically. Yeah. Here's a fun thing I learned about that costume. Today, I was going back. I was years ago in 1999. Sci-Fi Channel started airing the original series uncut for the first time in like 30 years. Yeah. And with those, they had them in 90-minute blocks, and they filled in the 90 minutes because the shows ran about 51, 52 minutes.
Ish, yeah.
So to fill out that block, they would have these Star Trek Insights, and they had all these interviews from people who worked on the original series.
Cool, yeah.
And they did them specifically for each episode. So Sherry Jackson, who played Andrea, they had an extensive amount of interviews with Sherry Jackson. And she was saying that back then they would allow front cleavage, but not side boob. So like she said Bill Thies had to like come in with like double-sided tape on the sides to make sure that it was like perfectly
exactly in the crease. Yeah.
And she said they had like a censorship person on set every day throughout the entirety of the week, like basically like with their eyes glued to her tits to make sure that nothing popped out.
Yeah, you can do this, but also we'll watch real closely so you don't step over this imaginary line that makes it worse somehow. Like her entire midriff, not hot enough. Like half of those lines in her stomach, not important. It's the side boob that were Jesus Christ.
On the other hand, looking at how meticulous and how well made that costume was, like that looked like some old school comic book costuming. And I was like, dude, if the original series could get away with this, we should be able to throw this on a TV show. Like, it doesn't all have to be leather,
No.
It's like,
it doesn't. And I think the only reason people avoid it now is definitely the argument of, is this objectifying? Yeah, it's harder to get away with. It really depends on context and if someone is comfortable doing it and if it makes sense for the character, etc., etc. And also how the camera treats it, because like I've said, there is every hot woman in this show gets the 2 seconds of, oh my goodness, I've never seen a hot woman since last episode. And that's a different thing that we would do today, probably. But it is funny to have happen every single time someone walks on screen, especially half naked. Yeah,
there is a certain way that, and it's not just the women, weirdly enough. It's a lot of like, they will do it with male characters, and not nearly as much. I
probably don't notice it because I'm not attracted to them. That might be the issue there.
That might be, but like They very specifically, they do it way more with women, obviously, but like they even did it when Chapel first sees Korby, where it's like they greased up the lens for him too, and she's like glaring at him, and it's like, and it's like that. It's just like that love camera, like,
finally, after all these years. Yeah.
Finally,
after all these years, I'm seeing a half-naked woman.
You know what, though? Here's my argument for it, and why I kind of love it, is men act like that.
It is very accurate to what Kirk, especially in that time period, like, if anyone walked up to someone in the 60s wearing that outfit, it would be like, I am slightly taken aback. I am taking a moment. Gather my thoughts.
Not even that time period, Effie. Like,
Probably nowadays,
guys
too,
hanging out. Guys hanging out. If a hot girl walks by, they will stop everything and go, "Damn!" Like,
Yeah, there is the
thing.
Conversation falls silent. It's a thing. Sure. Yeah.
It's like the male psyche. They've just never. They don't have any long-term memory for that.
Completely overwritten by the pure animal instinct of, oh, I want that.
Like, Anyway,
where were we? Let's pretend. Yeah, baseball, right?
I think we were talking about football or something.
So yeah, which one?
Or in my case, it would be like my friends going, "Damn." Anyway, what were you saying about Zack Snyder?
We were listening. We were totally listening.
And I'm aggravated that they stopped to look at the girl. I'm like, "Come on, guys! I'm talking about Zack here."
Yeah. Let's get back to it. Sucker punch.
They're like, "Those girls were hot in that movie." I'm like, "That's not what it was about, damn it."
Not the point. Not the point. They felt empowered. Yeah, no.
And of course they say, "I'd give them the point."
Oh God. I'm very glad I didn't think of that innuendo at all. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. Anyway, this episode's got a lot of cool ideas in it. Dr. Brown, talking to Chapel, says Dr. Korby has discovered that as their sun dimmed, the inhabitants of this planet moved underground from an open environment to this dark world. When you were a student of his, Christine, you must have often heard Dr. Korby remark how freedom of movement and choice produced the human spirit. The culture of XO3 proved this theory. When they moved from light to darkness, they replaced freedom with a mechanistic culture.
That's an interesting concept. I'm not sure it's true, but
yeah, that's like a whole thesis. That's like a thesis statement.
That's a big backstory that then is glossed over because we don't have time to get into it. But it is an interesting thesis to pose, where it is like, okay, but and I would instinctively be like, there's a lot of lack of freedom of movement in our current social and economic systems. So but maybe we are in a more mechanical society than we're willing to admit. That's also an option.
Not to mention cancel culture.
Oh, that's the opinion.
We can't say anything, Effie.
There's no freedom of movement in my lips anymore. It's all pre-approved by a large language model. Every joke I've made.
I like the idea that somewhere in the back of my head, or not even in the back of my head, is pretty at the forefront, is this hilarious concept of a very progressive person who is secretly a raging racist who just quietly stands in the corner of his house and whispers racial slurs before going out and pretending. Is there that person who's
gotta get it out of my system before I walk out the door?
Yeah, who's just God, I'm so racist, but this cancel culture, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta pull myself.
So scared.
Gotta pull myself up by my bootstraps and get this money. Let me go into my cursing corner and make my racial slurs so I can leave and pretend that I don't hate everyone who's a shade darker than me.
I mean, if that works, honestly, mission accomplished. We're good. We did it. If every racist would think that way and just stand in the corner, do it quietly to themselves, and don't bother anyone with it. Lovely.
Yeah, there's also this Twilight Zone version of it where it's the person is an introvert and they're not actually racist, but they wind up having, going to work, and then someone mentions by the way, you've had me over to your house once, but you've never had Bill. Bill's black. What's going on there? And it just becomes this very the monsters live on Mulberry Street kind of thing where everyone's he's a racist. And he's no, I'm an introvert. Please just leave me alone.
Yeah. Oh well. Let's deal with the institutional racism first, I guess. We'll deal with the individuals later. We'll figure out if they're introverts or not.
Yeah. Maybe then AI. By the time we get there, AI.
But you went to a party on Friday, and there were only white people.
But I stayed in the bathroom the whole time.
Yeah, it gets hard in terms of alibi at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed this episode, but I just so all over the place today. I feel like. Do you feel like that too? It feels like we've both been kind of
we're
scattered.
Really, that's a good word for it. We're all over the place. It is lovely. It's early in the morning still for me. I woke up talking to you. It's bound to mess with your brain.
Wow. That was kind of mean.
I'm sorry.
That was kind of mean.
I'm not saying mess in like a negative way. Just in my brain is a mess half the time anyway.
I know. By the way,
that was honest. That wasn't mean. That was just true.
I mean, I think that's why we're friends. Like we're both kind of
scattered and mean and also a mess.
Yeah, I grew up on insult comedy. Like it was a coping mechanism for me.
I get it. I'm not sure I grew up on any specific kind of comedy, but I mean I do have the Jewish genes in there, so like what do you expect? There's bound to be some self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
And that eventually lashes out at other people as well. So
yeah, I don't think I have any Jewish genes, but I did grow up watching Conan O'Brien, and every 5 seconds he's self-deprecating, you know? And,
yeah. And that formed your entire sense of self-worth.
Yeah, well, I was insecure and felt like a piece of shit, and then I was like, "Oh, this guy made it funny though."
Yeah. Oh, it can still function in society if I.
But you know,
if I point it out, if I hang a lantern on my own shittiness.
When I do it in real life, though, in my real life, people are like, "You shouldn't say that." I'm like, "It was a joke, dude."
Like I don't fully mean that. Yes, I hate myself, but not in this way.
Yeah. I was making light of myself before you did it and crushed my dreams.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not letting you get an insult in.
Yeah. You don't get to do this.
And I somehow still managed to, so that's why we're friends, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved, first of all, like Andrea's costume, like you were talking about, very, very sexy, but it works so well because
it's not out of place.
It's not, because he made her for himself.
Yeah, let's be real.
Like, and they don't.
She's a blow up doll. It's
yeah.
They pretty much walk right up to that line and have him deny it very believably. Well,
he tries to get away from the question too.
Yeah. Do you think I could love a machine?
She's like, did you?
Well, love, but yeah, exactly.
She said, did you? We about to fight right now.
Yeah.
She's like, look, I'm in love with a robot on the Enterprise myself, but I didn't do nothing with him. So like,
yep. Yeah. And getting beyond her, like even Ruck's design, fucking awesome. Like really imposing silhouette, like the contouring on that face. Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. It's just fucking interesting. It is, and it really does set her apart as well, because she is, you know, also an android, but not
made by
built
the same
at
people.
all in that. No, exactly. Very different purpose, very different culture. Clearly just I am curious, given that we had the machine that just sort of cloned Kirk's looks, like who was the original Andrea that was like, how did he like how was that android created?
Yeah, I think there were some questions that they didn't have in the episode that I would have liked answered. But in a way, I kind of like being able to headcanon it, because I'm like,
of course,
speculation. Was she a scientist who went on the expedition with them and didn't survive? Because clearly, as we find out in the end, Korby was like all messed up and lost his legs and was on the brink of death, freezing to death. Clearly, there were other scientists. Was she one of the ones? And he was like, And
I guess I'm fucking this colleague for the foreseeable future.
yeah, so
but,
like,
without her mind, because that makes it less weird.
what the more weird thing is like the idea that he like drug her corpse into that room and
Oh no!
and stripped her and threw her onto this like giant rotating disc.
Yeah, just spun her around for a bit and then buried her.
Because they didn't really like, what happened? Did Ruck find him and just be like, "We're gonna bring you in here," or did he like?
I guess it feels weird for Ruck to decide like, oh, I'm gonna save this human that might come to kill me eventually, and like turn him into an android, but transfers, and like he had to have some sense of agency to also develop all these ideas of like, no, we can program our way out of hatred and blah, blah, blah.
Was the first indication that these robots could, or these androids could feel that Rock was so lonely that he saved Korby's life and brought him down there to like show him like, look, this is what we do. This is how we make android, and then, we've got, we're going to just,
now we're just writing more interesting backstories.
Yeah, like
dang it!
What actually happened? And like, also like, the way they described it, I would have to assume, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've called myself listening. It seems like he was dying, and everybody else had already died, and then Rock had to have helped him transfer his consciousness to the android, and had to show him how to make an android. So then his creepy ass, after he was an android, went around cloning all these dead people or close to dead people and used one of them as a sex slave.
Yeah.
He
only grabbed her, right? Like there's not a bunch of other androids running around.
No, there was. If you'll recall, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown. The guy the guy that like didn't really recognize Christine for a second. And she was like, why doesn't he recognize me? He's like, Christine, sorry, it's been so long. He's the guy that was talking about, like, oh, Christine, when you were a student of his, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then,
he's the first one to go, right?
He's the first one to go, yeah.
He's the reveal of, like, oh, my insides are cables and shit. Which is interesting because, like, he gets a hole punched in his stomach by the same weapon that, like, vaporizes the entire beings later on. But
there are settings.
We'll deal with that. We're explaining it away. Yeah.
No, we're not explaining it away. Like in the canon, and already at this point, you can set phasers to stun or kill, or you can there's like a sliding scale, and I've even got the prop replica. There's a sliding scale.
Lovely. Yeah.
There's a sliding scale of power.
Oh, there is a valid explanation, absolutely, but there is no in-episode explanation. So it is very much like, oh, that must have been a stronger setting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. They did.
It's easier on the visual department. Come on.
In the episode, they didn't go like, "Oh yeah, we got." If it had been on CW,
I stunned him, and now there's a hole in his stomach.
Yeah, if it had been on the CW, it would have been like, I had to change the setting from stun to kill all the way to, and then Captain would be like, "Oh, like he's never heard of a phaser before."
Right? Yeah. No. Let's be glad they didn't do that. It's just there.
What did you think of Kirk right before they transferred his memories and whatnot, realizing, oh shit, they're going to try to replace me, and then getting himself angry and saying, "Mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference. Do you hear?" Just so that version will say that and make Spock go, "Oh, you're not real."
This is some fucked up shit. Yeah. No, that was like, I immediately got it, and I was like, good instincts. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, the whole time, like, from the minute he hears that guy fall, Kirk's like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah.
You just killed my man. You killed that man.
Yeah, like they dead. They both dead. that shit. Yeah. Oh no, he's gone. I'm sorry.
I assure you, he has passed.
Not suspicious. Yeah. No, it is the first time red shirts have just all been wiped out, right? Like that's the start of the trope, basically. Yeah.
This is the first episode where they killed the red shirts. Yeah. Other crewmen have died.
Hooray. Oh,
They
absolutely.
were wearing other color shirts.
Yeah. Now
But-
it's just really, I need a security unit to die.
Yeah, but you know what? As I mentioned, someone did do the math, and it seems like
yeah, right.
proportionally, you are much more likely to die if you were wearing a gold or blue shirt, because
Intriguing. Yeah.
enough of those people have died, and it just seems like most of the Enterprise crew is made up of red shirts.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
400 red shirts and like 30 others.
It's really all you need. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a military vessel. Oof.
I like this episode is very basic in a lot of ways. They don't
Sure.
dig deep beneath the surface of any of this, but I like, the questions they kind of graze over, like, eating is a pleasure, unfortunately one you will never know, perhaps, but I will never starve. And then you have Korby talking to Kirk, in android form, a human being can have practical immortality. Can you see what I'm offering mankind? Kirk says programming, different word, but the same old promises made by Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, Hitler. And Korby says, can you imagine how life could be improved if we could do away with jealousy, greed, and hate? And Kirk says it can also be improved by eliminating love, tenderness, sentiment, the other side of the coin. Very, very obvious sci-fi tropes.
Absolutely, but at least they're there. They're turning over some of the stones, and I'm like, this is at least some interesting ideas, some thoughts being provoked.
And this is including one that will be revisited in Star Trek time and time again. In some ways, with their lead characters, the idea of, is artificial life?
Yeah.
And one of the
Where is that line?
You were talking about, having to have Andrea kiss Kirk, and it is important shorthand because Korby is making a point like, look, there's no love here.
Yeah,
she's just here to please me, and
she doesn't feel shit.
She doesn't feel anything. Look, she's got to go kiss Captain Kirk. But when Kirk tries to kiss her, she like pushes him back, and she's like, not programmed for you.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
clearly like, there's some consent issues. Yeah.
There are consent issues, and also like there's emotion there. Like she is confused and angry and hurt and feels like, no, I am for him. I'm for Korby. And his
monogamy is programmed. It is not innate, but
yeah. And I love
cultural
that, Rock had been like, well, it had been so long and I couldn't remember, but yes, that was the equation. Existence, survival must cancel out programming. Like they decided, no, we've got to override our programming to survive. And you have that notion, and Korby's just willing to be like, nope, I'm going to kill you then. If you don't listen to me, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, did he have the right to kill Rock? Did he, was he ever
Korby
in the first?
Lost? Yeah.
Clearly he had, Korby had emotions for Christine, or else he wouldn't have been fighting so hard. I mean, he's like, well, I transferred my whole consciousness. I'm still me.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
You've changed at the very least over these past years.
Yeah. But
like those thoughts have evolved and a lot has changed. But then he has to like try and convince you, and the best he can do is, I can solve any equation. Yeah, that sounds human, baby.
Yeah. But, I think it's interesting and strange that upon realizing that he has emotions and Andrea has emotions, he embraces her and kills both of them.
Yeah.
It's like a murder-suicide, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, man, I wanted to unpack that more.
Yeah. Dark. Like I had to like rewind for a second where I was like, wait, who shot who? Like what?
Yeah, no, he killed himself.
Yeah. Oh, he grabs her weapon, yeah.
Yeah, which was, by the way, the phaser pistol used in The Cage.
Ah.
That was a Starfleet phaser pistol from The Cage. Or laser, whatever they called it back then.
Sure. Well, same thing.
Interestingly, there is a scene at the end of this where Chapel tells Kirk, I've made my decision, I'm going to stay on board. And it kind of implies in this episode that she came aboard the Enterprise specifically to find Roger Korby. And Majel Barrett has talked about this, about how, like, according to this episode, which I don't know, like, exactly how when they said all this, because I don't remember seeing it, but Majel Barrett claims that Nurse Chapel took a reduction in rank to become a nurse because she was an MD. Later material seems to suggest that that's not true, but
okay.
According to her, at some point she said she took a reduction in rank to go find Roger Korby on the Enterprise, and then wound up deciding to stay as a nurse on the Enterprise. I can't, I don't think that really works out. I think she misunderstood
Might have been
something.
an earlier concept. Yeah.
Because we've seen her before, and she was a nurse then, and she certainly wasn't trying to get to Roger Korby when she was telling Spock she loved him. So,
and also, like, those are two different professions.
Yeah.
Like, it might be a lower rank, but that doesn't mean any doctor can become a nurse.
Right.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing for that.
Well,
like, usually.
I don't want to, like, step too hard into that territory, because that to me rings
different professions.
It's different professions, but it's also like we're talking about like 200 years in the future. And
yeah, that's what I mean. Different professions from what they are now. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, it feels to me like a lot of people who are in the military will get angry at Star Trek and be like, that's not how rank works. And I'm like, this is in the future. You don't know how rank works.
Fucking go on a hike. Like, Jesus. Yeah. Like, I don't care. Like, does it matter?
Yeah.
Like, we've already seen with the Romulans, their rank works differently.
Yeah.
There is just I'm docking you 2 points type system where, you know, that's a cultural thing.
And rank seems to differ in Star Trek across series. Like, in the original series, you will hear of a lot of Commodores, and you don't hear much about Commodores in the 24th century stuff. And everybody's an admiral.
Commodore 64 was replaced by then.
Yeah. You'll hear a lot more about admirals, you know, but you don't hear about generals. You don't hear about, and, you know, in the original series, they tried to be really, really loosey-goosey with, like, whether, like, Roddenberry was like, oh, it's more like the Coast Guard. It's not really the military. But then by the movies, Roddenberry was ousted and Harv Bennett came in and he's like, nope, it's the Navy.
Of course.
So
how could we have missed this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of back and forth on what, and, you know, TNG is very different from a lot of the ranking traditions and stuff. So it's just kind of weird.
It's another generation. The next one.
It's 88 years later. Whoa.
Shit happens. Yeah.
So
I would hope any army isn't doing the same shit they were doing 90 years ago. Except for, you know, let's not get into recent events.
Yeah. By the way, in that Star Trek Insights, Sherry Jackson said that William Shatner's chest had to be shaved for his scenes in the android machine, and you can tell, like, whenever he's shirtless on the original series, he is shaved.
Yeah,
because Roddenberry thought that Kirk wouldn't have chest hair.
No, he's far too evolved for that
body hair.
Apparently,
but it's weird that, because, like, in the original, in, like, the first movie, like, you could just tell he's just covered in hair. Like, he has more arm hair than he does on his actual head. Like, if you get beneath the toupee, you're like, oh my god, like, he is like Robin Williams in the motion picture, but just like a walking rug of a man. But
oh great,
yeah, he's very manscaped in the original series.
We'll get there.
Yeah. According to Memory Alpha, the script for this episode was in such bad shape that Gene Roddenberry had to make revisions simultaneously with the filming of the episode, and shooting had to wait until new pages arrived. And that was actually from Star Trek The Real Story, page 204. So if you want to go read that book, everyone, I actually kind of do. I like reading those books.
Go ahead. We have time. Go read it.
No, I don't have it.
Oh.
I'd have to order it.
Oh, that's going to take a bit. Yeah.
Painful. Do you have anything else on this episode? Do you feel like there's any burning issues?
No, I think we've covered it. And some of those issues, like, that makes sense because at that point you improvise some action and another escape, and that's where you fill up some time with let's have them run around the compound again. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. But then when there is writing, I'm like, ooh, interesting. And then it is fun. It's a nice one. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Once again. Yeah. Not that my expectations were far lower or anything, but just in general, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually a sequel to this episode in book form called Double Double.
Of course.
It was a novel that was published, and I, of course, have it, but it's like there was, unbeknownst to anyone, to the crew of the Enterprise, there was another android, and he was away on an expedition, and he comes back to find everyone murdered and decides to basically like make a duplicate, an android duplicate of the last person duplicated, and it's Kirk. So he like concocts a scheme to like steal the Enterprise and get revenge for the
funny. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's around if you actually ever want to read that.
If I ever want to read a book. Yeah.
Oh, hey,
I want to write a book. I don't want to read a book.
From what I understand, you can just purchase the book on like Kindle or whatever and like or get a PDF or something and upload the file to an app that will just read it to you.
That's
like
true.
An Audible.
You can get anything into audio form if you want to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an option. No, there's one last burning thought. I noticed on Memory Alpha that the last quote where between Spock and Kirk of the like, oh, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed, Captain. Like the unsophisticated expression. And then I'll remember that the next time I find myself in a similar situation is blue. And I'm like, shit, there's a hyperlink. This will be relevant. But I don't want to spoil myself, so I don't click it. But there's another episode they're referring to.
Let me see, because I don't know what they're referring to.
Oh, yeah, you go look.
I have no idea what they're talking about. Let me see what they're talking about. I'll tell you if it's an actual spoiler or not, I guess. Like, similar situation. Oh.
Loosely used term.
Kind of. Okay. Well, for those who know, they're talking about that links to the page for the episode This Side of Paradise.
We'll get there.
Yeah, kinda.
Curious.
Yeah, I'm curious.
It felt like a stretch because it is a quote. It's not a direct like reference to anything. So like to put that in the wiki page is just sure, intriguing.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be referring to this quote in This Side of Paradise where Kirk is fighting Spock or is provoking Spock and says, you're a traitor from a race of traitors, disloyal to the core, rotten like the rest of your subhuman race, and you've got the gall to make love to that girl.
Okay. That sounds fucked. Looking forward to that episode. Jesus. We'll get there, I'm sure. Jesus.
I forgot about that little moment. Yeah.
I guess he remembered that. That would rile him up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good call.
Someone put one and one together. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a good call. Anyway, let's see. We've got some feedback. A little bit of feedback about the episode Charlie X from Stu Little. Writing in.
I know that name.
Yeah. Stewie writes, Charlie handles things poorly, but I also find a lot of the regular cast's behavior towards him pretty unlikable. Spock just has no tact with dealing with a young man who wants to learn to play the game, or her think Uhura thinks it's fine to just embarrass him in song in front of everyone. And Kirk has the 50s/60s attitude that the kid just needs some rough and tumble manly activities and goes out of his way to emasculate him physically in the gym.
Yeah, because that has helped every single boy grow up to be just as emotionally repressed. It's fair. Yeah, no, it's oof.
Stu says
they don't handle it well.
No, they don't. Rand's the only character I find sympathy for because she's got this unwanted attention and tries to deal with it as compassionately as she can. Yeah,
she's lovely.
Absolutely.
Very nice about it.
Everyone is sort of like a mocking dick to Charlie, and for real, they're all like, "Hey, stupid kid doesn't know what's going on."
Yeah,
I'll show
they're not
you,
very
kid.
Welcoming.
I'll show you, kid. This is called a throw. Yeah. I just threw you against the wall, you stupid little pansy. You're a kid. Look at you all wet behind the ears. You thought you knew something.
Yeah, fair. I mean, at the same time, it also, like, Rand's very soft letdown of, like, I'm too old for you and don't want this and don't need this. Like, she could have been clearer, but also it reeks of the standard, I have to be very careful with his male fragile ego to not, like, get him to lash out, which he does eventually anyway, but there is that, like, knowing as a woman to be very fucking careful with this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. She tried to foist him onto some other girl.
Yeah, that was not subtle, but
yeah, it was
an attempt.
I've done that. Or like I was
introduced someone to another girl and been like, you guys should make out. I'm not.
No, I introduced a girl that I was not romantically interested in, who was really into me. I introduced her to my more attractive friend. It was like trying to get that to be a thing, and
oh boy,
at some point in the middle of like us all hanging out, he just goes like, I don't know, she goes like, why are you trying to get me to date your friend? And I was like, son of a bitch, what are you talking about?
I have been thwarted.
Like, no, you don't understand. I mean, like, if you wanted to, I would understand, of course. But, no, you don't understand. I just thought you'd be good friends.
I would never.
She's like, just, I'm like, hey, look, I don't know why you're getting that. I mean, I would get it if you did want to date him, but...
Because, yeah, like, look at him, but...
I'm like, also, he's in the military. He's got them benefits. Come on.
Oh, yeah. That's healthcare, honey. In this country? Woohoo!
Yeah, it didn't go well.
No? I wish I could have seen that coming.
Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this round of Original Trek. If you want to leave us feedback for these, feel free to write into StarTrekUcast@gmail.com, or like Stu Little did, we post these on YouTube, and you can send us a comment on those as well. Next week's episode... Actually, the episode. Because Effie's on the episode. Next week's episode, Effie and I are reviewing Dagger of the Mind. Until next time, Jolan True, live long and prosper, and of course,
eat a dick. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.